growing up, I had so many different types of leaders. I had some that just want to be my very best friend. Others that were super hard-nosed and they just pushed me and they were so flippin' tough. But there were a select few that had the capacity of having both of those things. They knew when and how to be my friend and when and how to push me. That's what we're going to be talking about today. The movie is K-19. Recommended to everybody. Just told my family member, my brother-in-law, about this movie. He went and watched it yesterday, and we talked about it today. And we were like problem solving. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? It's one of those movies that it has such a good storyline. Okay, here are my 3 takeaways and reasons why you should go ahead and watch this movie. Reason number 1 is it shows how to be a family leader. So it has Liam Neeson and Henry Ford. So 2 of the great leaders, 2 of the great actors of our time, right? Liam Neeson plays, let me just give you a little context, right? It's about the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and they're launching nuclear missiles and practicing. They haven't done anything, but both sides are very contentious between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. And usually the movie is about the U.S. side, but this movie is a true story about the Soviet Union side and one of their submarines that they're testing out on the eastern seaboard, out by Washington, D.C. and New York and stuff. And they're testing us with a big nuclear missile on it, okay? So that's the scene. So Liam Neeson, he's over this crew and has been over this crew of guys. They're getting ready to launch this submarine. It's called K-19. And he's just an awesome dude. Everybody loves this guy. He always takes his guys out for drinks. You know, we're like family. But you know what the big flaw with treating everybody like a family is that you set your standards very low. Now, I'm not saying that if you have a family, you will do this. I'm saying that's the stereotypical, oh, I'm your friend, I'm your family member, oh, I'm treating you, I'm the father, you're the children. If I'm the father and you're the children, I'm never going to fire you because a father doesn't fire his children, right? That's the family situation. And the issue that he runs into is that even though everybody on his team loves him, they can't do jack squat. And they are in major trouble to the point where people die because they aren't battle ready, right? He's lowered the standards so low that people are sleeping on the job, they're drinking, they're sleeping in, and they don't have those high standards. So then when go time, when it comes time to actually perform, they don't have the necessary supplies. They don't have the necessary. I'll give you a simple example. So they have a nuclear warhead aboard and radiation starts leaking. And they're like, we need to go and fix it. So they go to get the hazmat suits and he's like, well, what are these suits? These are chemical suits. He's like, chemical suits? These won't do anything against nuclear radiation. It's essentially like wearing a raincoat. They got the wrong stuff. But because he had his standards so low, he didn't check up on those things, and it cost people's life. Now, that's the family leader, right? Number 2 is being the dictator leader. Now, what are the pros of being a dictator leader? This is Harrison Ford, right? They're both playing Russian leaders, okay? Harrison Ford is a total G when it comes to standards. We need to keep high standards. We need to push it hard. He gets on the submarine. He's like, guys, take the submarine down to 300 knots. And they all look at each other and they're like, 300 knots? That's the max capacity. That's the max depth that this submarine can go. And you don't go to the max depth in a submarine because the pressure of the water, when you keep on going lower and lower, the pressure is higher and higher, and it can smash your submarine like that. And he looks at that and they question him. He says, take it down to 300 knots. And they all look at each other and they start going down to 100 knots, 150 knots. And they start looking at each other, 200 knots, 220 knots, and you start seeing the dial, and it's like, you know how they have like that green zone, like right at like 150 it goes from green to like yellow, and at 250 it's like red, like you don't go in the red zone. 250, and then 300 it's like danger, danger. They go all the way down to 300, and they sit there at 300, and he's sitting there drinking his coffee, and he's just, and everybody's looking at him like, oh my gosh. You start hearing the boat creaking, and it smashes in a little bit, and they're like, oh my gosh, what are we? He just sits there for like a minute straight, and he's like, all right, take it up. And they go up, and they're like, oh my gosh, did we really just go down to 300 knots? They couldn't believe they actually went down to 300 knots. And they're doing drills, and so the standards start getting up and up and up. But what's the issue? Is that when you act like a dictator, people hate you because you're just ordering them around. Do this, do this, do this, do this. There's no freedom, right? There's no love being given to your people, to the point where his own guys stage a mutiny against him, and they hold a gun to his head, right? That's the level of, you have high standards and you're battle ready, but your men hate you, okay? So what's the lesson? Well, takeaway number 3 is the dichotomy of leadership. In this movie, it perfectly shows. It's just like, remember the Titans and Glory. Remember the Titans, where you have Coach Boone and Coach whatever his name is like Yugalats or something. You have both these coaches. The one is the nice guy, and Coach Boone is Denzel Washington, and he says, this is not a democracy, this is a dictatorship, right? And then they eventually help each other come closer into the middle, so that they share each other's opposing strengths, right? And then they can lead the team onto great things. Same in Glory. Same with the captain and one of his other underlings. He's going way over here, and this guy is all about loving the team, and they come together. Well, the same thing in this movie is that they each teach each other to come closer into the middle, and they work together to the point of, instead of, there's a high point where he asks them, I'm not going to tell you what he asked, but he asks them, he says, guys, he's about to command them and say, we're doing this. And the other leader says, don't tell, ask. And he says, all right, fellas, here's the mission. I'm on standby to wait and see what I'm on standby to hear from you guys. And each of the guys clock in. We're ready to follow you, Captain. Hey, we're ready to follow you, Captain. We'll do anything for you, Captain, right? And because they have that family, first, they're battle ready. They have that dictatorship side where it's like, hey, here are the high standards and here's what we're going to do. But he also brings in the love and showing that he cares about them. They create a trust because they have both of those things together, and his men trust him, and they can go so much further, okay? So my challenge to you is go ahead and watch this movie. I have the link below, okay? It's a phenomenal movie. You can go ahead, rent it on Amazon for like $3.99, super cheap. And once you watch it, I would love to hear your takeaways from the movie. And then second, go ahead and watch one inspirational movie every single week. That's how you keep yourself inspired to keep on growing and doing better and better things. When you watch these guys, you're like, dude, these guys were on a submarine and they were about to die and they had all these different things going on. I can handle my business. I can handle these things that are going on in my life, right? Because you're inspired. So go ahead, watch the movie, and then check out my movie list. It's on my website for more inspirational movies. And I'll see you guys next time.